and then let us start focusing. So ready? Can we start? Passage 1. And once you read the paragraph which is there on the screen, just quickly let me know that you have gone through it. Just quickly type done so that I can take you over to the next slide. Okay. So here is the first part of the paragraph for you. Hi Nishant, what's up? Sri, Arey Harsha, there has been quite a few days. And we also are joined by Santosh. Interesting. Okay, Santosh, that's great. So taking you over to the next paragraph, I am assuming that the others have also read that. Harshad, okay, let us see. I think let's just go ahead and conduct a para completion session soon. I personally think of it more as a variation of para jumbles, but let's schedule a session and we can go ahead and look at that too. Done? Should I take you over to the next slide? So there you go. So I think we are through with this particular paragraph by now. It's a fairly smallish paragraph. Okay, so here is the next one. through with this. Okay, so here comes the last paragraph for you on your screen. Santosh, strata essentially means layer, essentially, layers. So society also can be divided into layers, right? So you have people at the bottom, then people in the middle, people at the top. So you have that lower strata, middle layer, top layer. So it's more of a socio-economic division as per this particular passage. Good afternoon, Vivek. A little late to the party, I see. Done. Shall we start? Okay, so before I move on, can anybody share the main idea of this passage with us in the chat box? What do you think? What's the main idea? There's any flaw there, and it translates into lower accuracy rates subsequently. Sonali, I will talk about it, but in a little while from now. And there is a reason behind it. So we'll get to that. Sri, yes, both of them definitely happen to have the same root. Even when you talk about stratosphere, you talk about different layers. Okay, Vedant, all right. Harshad says, okay, now you notice we at times have these slight distortions that come into picture. So I'm just picking up some of these options. So for instance, when I say interdependence of people, I will call this a broad idea because are we talking about interdependence? Yes, but in a particular, in a specific context, in a specific sphere, the sphere of health. So that itself goes beyond. Then cleanliness is next to godliness. That's narrow. It does talk about cleanliness and its role, but is that the main idea? So basically, the main idea here is that people think health is something that they control, that it is within their complete control, but that is not true. When it comes to your health, there are factors that affect you, but they are outside your control. That's the key idea. And then everything else that is given, right? When you talk about water and sewage, when you talk about air pollution, all of that has been stated in order to bolster, in order to support that one particular aspect. So you notice we at times tend to have these slight biases. Our options become broad or narrow, and that is what examiner exploits when it comes to main idea or suitable title questions. So that said, there you go. Question number 1 on your screen. What do you think should the answer be? So what's your take? Okay. So Harshad and Sri have shared their answers. And I think all of you are absolutely spot on. See, it is The problem with A is the second half. This is something that cannot be determined on the basis of the passage, and therefore we'd had to rule it out. And then B, the author believes that humans cannot survive without one another. Now, when there is an interdependence, it means that without others, your life can become sub-ideal. Where one extreme case of it being sub-ideal is that you may not even be able to survive. But then, it's sub-ideal, right? That does not definitely mean that we'd not be able to survive. We may not have a great existence, but that's something that we can though infer. So that's why B is also ruled out, and that's where C scores. Okay, and even otherwise, if I look at A once again, if you look at Jainism, Nagarjuna, quantum physics, why has the author really gone on to mention these things? So you realize in the very first paragraph, on the very first slide rather, right? It was there in the third paragraph, the author has shared his opinion of interdependence. Then he goes on to mention these three things. So there are times when you quote sources, quote people who have a high degree of credibility, and the purpose of quoting those in such situations basically is to use them as a paperweight. They lend credence to your opinion. They make your opinion appear even more correct. It appears that it has more gravitas. So that's the role of Jainism, Nagarjuna, and quantum physics in this particular paragraph. Because they happen to share the author's opinion, author has cited those to lend further credence. Okay, then question number 2. The author has mentioned the example of slum dwellers to do what? Okay, just a reminder that when it comes to all these indirect questions, we use elimination approach over selection approach. And the reason is that the perfect answer choice may not even exist. And therefore, when you start eliminating, the job becomes easier. Okay, so you are absolutely right. C is the correct answer. We can then definitely move on. Here is the third question for you. What's your take? So the focus is on this. Why has the author mentioned it? It is similar to the previous question in terms of the approach and the thought process required. Okay, so let's just talk about this question once. Whenever you mention a person, an example, an instance, why do you do it? Just to put it generically, what is the role or what is the purpose of an example? An example serves or plays two roles, right? It can help us elaborate something which will make it easier for us to understand. So it can help us enhance our understanding of some point, some idea, or it can go ahead and support some point, some idea. So all that we do is we look at the example instance person mentioned, then we go to the answer choices and see which point or idea can be supported or elaborated upon using that example. So here if we say A can be simply termed false, because deterministic things are things like your genetic composition, your year of birth, etc. Air does not belong to that category, and therefore A is ruled out. It's not the context for air quality. In fact, let me take you back quickly. Shouldn't even take long. The air we breathe is an important factor that determines our health span and lifespan. For the most part, this is not something you can control. So remember, so far the author laid this proposition that we may think we control all the aspects of our health, but in reality we do not. So the previous paragraph had these theoretical aspects, okay, immediate family, so 3 circles, right? And then here he gets into specifics. So for example, the air. So the goal here is to show that there are a lot of things that impact the air quality around you and you don't control these. And in the context of this paragraph, if you approach this particular question, you'd see that it actually talks about B, various factors play an important role. Yes, but then see, you cannot escape the reality that pollution is everywhere. It does not say it is everywhere. It is what it is at different places, and if you're living there and the air is bad, it is going to affect you. It does not automatically mean that the air is bad everywhere. And point number 2, this somehow takes it to pollution instead of limiting it to air pollution. And then D, it is highly likely that government policy can make or break the environment of a particular place. Is this the point that is supported by the mentioning of air? I think everybody has ruled it out, so I won't spend time on it. Let's eliminate it. B is going to be our best answer for this particular question. And here is the next one for you. Your typical, regular, standard inference-based question. Go ahead and share your answer with me. Sri, the focus was on why. Why was that mentioned as an important factor? So in reality, if you in isolation try and figure out the answer of why it is an important factor, the passage does not even give us that answer. It does not even tell you why it is important. But in the context, we at least know that the purpose of mentioning air was B. So that's why B becomes the best answer choice. Okay, so let us check. A, this only is a problematic word, so can't say. What we sow is what we reap somehow tells us that everything that happens to us is because of our actions, whereas the passage very clearly says that not everything is in your control, it is also in the control of others, and therefore we can actually label it false. C, the factors outside our control are important, yes, but are they more important? Can't say. But D is true, and therefore D should be our answer. And if you're working with me for a few days now, then you know that in inference based questions When one option is true and the remaining are false or can't say, we choose the one which is true as our answer. And here comes the last question, and this question is also the reason why I did not answer Sonali's concern a little while ago. So now you know Sonali. Okay, so let's see. So first and foremost, let's look at the meaning of the word or the expression topsy-turvy. So one of the ways in which we use it in our newspapers, etc., a lot is in the sense of something that is some place where things are very confusing, or they lack organization. So for instance, if I say that things are so topsy-turvy at work these days, then it means that everything is haywire and chaotic. There is no organization. Then the other meaning of the expression topsy-turvy is upside down. For example, some of the rides at the amusement parks turn the riders topsy-turvy. Some of the rides at the amusement parks turn the riders topsy-turvy, which is upside down. And we don't have confusing or lacking organization here, but we do have upside down, and therefore we should go ahead and mark A as our answer. Fair enough. So that's about our passage, and here are the directions to the next 3 questions. The 4 sentences labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, properly sequenced, form a coherent paragraph, decide on the proper order for the sentences. The moment we look at this set of directions, we know that we are dealing with parajumbles. So questions 6, 7 and 8 are parajumbles, where the first question on your screen was asked in the 3rd slot of CAT 22. So how about taking on an actual question? So I'll give you roughly around 70 seconds of focus. After 70 seconds, I am going to highlight some words, and those of you who are stuck can probably use those as hints, and then we'll move over to eventually discuss the question. Okay, so please start. Okay, that was quick, Harshad. Right, so let me highlight some parts. So 2 of these are word-based clues, as you can see, sentence 1, sentence 3, okay. And then in 4th, I have underlined an idea, hegemonic applications. So think along these lines in case you're stuck, and then we'll talk. Okay, hegemonic is an adjective. The noun hegemony essentially means dominance. So hegemonic applications are basically applications that are intended to dominate. So essentially what we are saying is that half a century ago, development began as a hope for a better human possibility. We're not talking about a country, we're not talking about a certain set of people, we're talking about human possibility. But in the last 50 years, this hope has lost itself in the dreary desert of various kinds of hegemonic applications. So development has been used by sects, groups and countries to achieve a dominant position over the others. And as a result, instead of making the entire mankind better, it has basically gone on to make a certain section of the mankind better. Okay, so that's what fourth essentially means. Then in terms of ideas, look at second. We are at a crossroads. So crossroads is a moment where you need to take a call, go left or go right. And crossroad now in our vision and practice of development. So you need to introduce two options here. So if I look at it, fourth talks about this one thing that has happened. First talks about an alternate. You notice this other option. So fourth says a section used development to get dominance, but fourth says development as a shared responsibility once again. Okay, and that too across the world because of that shared destiny. Now, what can this refer to? This calls for the cultivation of an appropriate ethical mode of being in our lives. Now this can only refer to the ideas mentioned in 1, and therefore you need to have 1, 3, right? And because 4 and 1 or 1 and 4, whichever way you're looking at it as of now, talk about two different viewpoints. They in a way talk about those crossroads or represent crossroads. So 2 should come before both of these. So here you go 2. So 2 should come before 1 and 4 both. So where should 4 go now? So there are two positions. Where do we put it? So first starts with, now let's use this but today. But is used to introduce contrast. So when you say but today, the sentence prior to that should talk about what happened earlier. And this talks about shared responsibility. The sentence prior to it should talk about a situation where the responsibilities were not shared. So which sentence would that be? Sentence 4. So if you want to justify but today, you need to put 4 right before 1, and that is why the correct answer should be 2, 4, 1, 3. Okay? So just focus on those clues. Word-based clues, idea-based clues, the expressions that are stated, and then take it up from there. So that was question number 6. Here is the next one. Once again, 70 seconds and then we'll see. Okay, so but so-called However, the resultant ionizing radiation, result of what? Shall we? Okay, so let's see. Second talks about, of all the changes introduced by man into the household of nature, controlled large-scale nuclear fission is undoubtedly the most dangerous. And then fourth says the resultant ionizing radiation has become the most serious agent of pollution. So if the result of a process is the most serious agent of pollution, that process should also be most dangerous. So the resultant here is referring to the large scale nuclear fission, the controlled variety. So that's how we can connect 2 and 4 with each other. Okay. And then look at third. Look at this, however. The danger to humanity created by the so-called peaceful uses of atomic energy may, however, be much greater. What kind of idea should I have immediately before it? That the non-peaceful uses are not that dangerous in reality. So the sentence prior to it will talk about non-peaceful uses being dangerous or not as dangerous, and then third says, oh, but then these so-called peaceful uses are even more dangerous. So which one of these 4 sentences talks about non-peaceful use? Atom bomb. So you want to justify the however of third, you need to put first right before it. So 1, 3. So we have figured out 2 mandatory pairs. Now the question is, in which sequence or order should we write them? So all of you have started with 2. And therefore, I think I won't even need to tell you why 2 should come before 1 and 3. We just simply can combine and write them as 2, 4, 1, 3. And don't worry, I think a lot of you were really fast, really quick. A majority of the people end up spending somewhere around 2 to 2.5 minutes while solving these questions in the exams. And you do have that kind of time anyway, right? So learn to utilize this, but then work on the basis of clues. This, by the way, is a CAT 2020 question. This was in slot 2. And here is another question from an actual CAT paper. What's your take? Ooh. Sonali, you giving me the answer for question 8? If yes, then that has to be the fastest that I have seen. Okay, well, I was otherwise amazed. Okay, I see Harshad, Nishant have definitely contributed rather quickly. Shri has also shared his answer. And that's actually fabulous, man. That's right, the correct answer is indeed 3, 1, 2, 4. Since everybody has gotten it, I think I can skip talking about it. I'll just highlight some of the relevant things. 2 and 4 could go together rather easily. Then this also tells us that it should come after first, so on and so forth. Virender, 4-2 versus 2-4. You notice you mentioned concern in second and then these concerns. Although ideally this concern should have made it even better, but then that's how it works, man. Okay, so that's about Jumbles. So if you enjoyed working with me, don't forget to give it a like. And here's a thought for you. From somebody that a lot of us know, Taylor Swift, never believe anyone who says you do not deserve what you want. दुनिया ना बहुत कचरा डालती है यार अपने दिमाग में अपना. हम अपने घर में किसी को कचरा फेंकने देते हैं? नहीं ना, अपने दिमाग में भी नहीं फेंकने देना. Okay, if anybody tries to undermine you, learn to